Welcome back. You're listening and watching us live from our studios here in Lagos. We're covering the Osun State governorship elections, which started earlier this morning. At this point, we're expecting that results are being collated. And let's cross over to Osogbo, the capital city of Osun State, where Sean, Chris, and Larry, guys, you're standing by there. Take it on.
Thank you so much, Gimba, and welcome everyone to Osogbo and our makeshift studio, where we are following and monitoring the election and the outcome that's yet to come to the governorship election 2018 of Osun State. The people are waiting to know who will become the next governor for another 4 years. It's been a very interesting past weeks for the people of Osun State, from the primaries to their campaigns, and now election day is gradually getting over. It's not over yet because the results are not yet out. Let's get a perspective on to the conversation that Gimba seems to have gotten to a controversial level in Lagos and Abuja. The perspectives or the analysts that we had there in Abuja and Lagos, those of them who are on the ground here in the studio with me, the monitor, they've been around town. Let's get some practical example and experience. Dr. Abiola Akiode Afolabi, she is a chairman of the Transition Monitoring Group and also the chair of Ward C. He joins us in our studio right now. Thank you so much for coming on the program tonight. And Mr. Eze Nwagu is the chairman of Electoral Reforms. Thank you, Partners for Electoral Reforms, that is. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
And I'll put you guys on the spot. Did you still vote by today?
Well, I didn't see any in particular. It's not as apparent as what we have seen in other elections. So I would say I didn't really see vote buying. But it doesn't mean that there was no vote buying. It probably means that maybe there were other strategies that they are using, to do vote trading. But in the way it was seen in other elections like Ondo, Edo, Ekiti, it didn't come in that shade. But I think, I won't say that there was no vote buying, but
what gives you the inclination that there could have been?
Before the election, there were things that we saw when we sent our monitors, around. So meaning that it could be what we call the prepaid.
What do you mean by prepaid?
Maybe those issues have been settled before the elections, but on election
so
day,
what we've always experienced is the see and buy. So when you print your ballot, you show someone who is hanging in the wing that will buy the vote and pay for it. But this time around, it does look that there is another lingua into the electoral malpractice in Nigeria, prepaid. Is that what it is?
Well, that seems to be what is being called. But I think that, honestly, there has been some kind of improvement. And I think the fact that everybody spoke against vote buying had actually helped in terms of, we saw that there's that retreat. So unlike the way it was before, it was not done in that way. We want to assume.
Not open.
Yes, it was not open, yeah. So we want to assume that maybe it didn't take place. But nevertheless, we need to also assess the situation appropriately so that if it's been done in another strategy, we also find a way of addressing it. But by and large, I think the fact that people came up boldly, spoke against vote buying, INEC made commitment to ensure to report anyone that participates in such processes, and the security agents also were also at alert to ensure that they arrest people. I think that really helped. So maybe if we do more in reading through the strategies and trying to find ways of addressing it, maybe that will help in addressing the issue of vote buying.
As you sometimes operate like an undercover agent when you're monitoring elections. Did you see vote buying?
So I think we have issue around accepting the fact that things are going well. And so there's always that tendency to want to put a slaw on the process. Watching the vote released its midday situational report, the observers didn't say they saw vote buying. And perhaps when we give the final statement for tonight, I should be able to say confidently whether there were pockets. But what has happened is that there is victory for the campaign against vote buying. The politicians retreated. And so around the presence of the voting area, people can't confidently tell you that the brazen nature that we saw in past elections, where people brought money, put human transmitters very close to tell them where. So INEC improved the secrecy of the ballot. And I think that it is a very impressive thing that you have an institution that responds. Because it's another thing, the Nigerian thing is to argue out, to say, okay, we're doing something about it. But majorly every stakeholder, civil society, INEC, the security agencies, were unanimous in wanting to push this out. And I think we need to be clear that, and respect Osun people, that the politicians in Osun had to take a back. So people will know that if we are united, if we are consistent about any matter, and to push through a clean election, that we can get it. And this is not the first time. There was a time that the Inspector General of Police, I remember vividly, said, if you vote, go home. The people themselves said, we are not going home. When we vote, we will stay back. It means that the resilience of the people is what we really need to deal with this issue. Prescriptions, legal prescriptions would help, but if the people themselves, like we're seeing now, the new strategy is that it is the people themselves who want to be induced. The people themselves want a situation in which they are induced, that they are calling for it.
They want the money.
They want the money.
But the issue will be whether or not the buying affects the votes.
That's what I'm saying. That's a different nature of conversation right now. But what is important is that the menace that made us to publish that vote buying report on Ekiti, duly purchased or duly elected, it came out so clearly that if we didn't do anything about vote buying, we will diminish and corrupt our electoral process in such a way that even people who are elected will feel shame eventually that they are in public office, and those who they lead also will not have the confidence to engage them on even issues around good governance.
Mr. Nwago, and this perhaps, let me bring it into a more practical sense. We had a water break, some of my colleagues and I, and we took a few minutes walk. And when we were coming back, we saw some guys gathering around where we were. They were in groups, and there was a fellow who was writing down names. And for a moment, I called the attention of my colleagues to it. What they were doing was to gather names, and they were making confirmation. And there seems to be some reaction into whether or not they did what they were asked to do, and they were gathering names and phone numbers. And that looked like what they were doing publicly. There was a time where it was a highest bidder. Some political parties, in Ekiti, for example, we saw the situation where some political parties were given fuel. And in fact, on the opposite side of the street, on this filling station was party A, on this filling station was party B. And some were given 4,000, some were given 6,000. In some areas, they even gave as much as 10,000 naira. In this scenario, does it look for you that maybe the politicians were a bit sophisticated in their manner and approach?
No, sophistication would not be the word. I don't think we should deodorize, this negative behavior of politicians. Yes, we can't deodorize it and make it smell nice. The truth of the matter is that if people are sharing money wherever, that is not within the presence of the voting area. I mean, Biola is a lawyer. You can't go and meet somebody who is sharing money in his house and say you are sharing money to buy. We can't. It's not something we can deal with. But we need to continue to talk to our people. We need to engage them and bring out the consequences. What does it mean when we and see all over the country we are beginning to see suspicious politicians are getting more sophisticated in a different way, getting into what we have referred to as suspicious empowerment. Okay? People getting fuel from filling stations, people giving suspicious scholarships, people giving money and all of that to traders. All of those things come in a way. We need to engage it. We need to have a conversation that deals with whether people can begin to give communities money, you know, towards the election time and say it is for a project. You can go and develop your own project and then determine and spend that money. Are there accountability mechanisms? We need to come together and say, look, how do we constrict the space in such a way now that it is only those who are ready, who have their hand in the public till, who have control of our commonwealth, that can decide how to go. The political parties are increasing. I mean, the political party said it made 8-point-something billion for sale of forms. Okay? Putting the collection of forms at such astronomical, you know, cost that self-respecting people who make their money, may not be able to afford those things. So we need to have a wider conversation. But for Osun election, it is important not to just look at the issue of vote buying. We can look at the process as well and give INEC and Osun people the respect they deserve.
Absolutely.
The political climate, the environment, the sophistication of the citizens is something we need to celebrate.
There is a historical perspective to these, and for those of us who have been monitoring elections for some time now, we know that the people of Osun State, historically, are people who have respected the process in the sense that